Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we're going to gently pull back the curtain on our digital lives. We're going to take a look at the simple, kind of elegant systems that websites use to remember who we are and what we're doing online.
It's happened to all of us, right? You're browsing, you toss a few things in your cart, you get distracted, close the tab, but then when you come back, maybe even days later, everything's still right there, just waiting for you. It feels a little bit like magic.
Or here's another one. Think about signing up for something like Gmail. The second you type in a username, it instantly tells you if it's available. Now that isn't magic either, but it is a very clever, real-time conversation that's happening between your browser and some server far, far away. So how does the web remember you? Well, that's exactly what we're going to get into. We're going to break this whole process down into a few core, really understandable pieces that pretty much form the foundation of your online experience.
And honestly, this is why this stuff matters. It's not just about the tech. It's about seeing the patterns and the connections in this digital world we all live in every single day. Once you grasp these basic ideas, everything else just starts to make a lot more sense.
Okay, so let's dive into our first big idea, the identifier. And the absolute simplest way to think about this is like a digital ID card that a website gives you.
So what is it? It's really just a unique tag. It could be your username, maybe your email, or it could even be just a totally random string of numbers. Its one and only job is to tell you apart from the millions of other people visiting that exact same site.
Now, here's where it gets kind of interesting. We humans, we like mnemonic identifiers, things that are easy for our brains to remember, like a username. But computers, they love the efficiency of fixed-length numbers. They're just faster and way cleaner to process, and that's why both types are used all the time online. So let's see how this works in real life. When you first visit a site like Amazon, its server basically says, "Hey there, new visitor, here's your ID card." And it hands your browser this tiny piece of data called a cookie, with a unique number on it, like 1678. From that moment on, every single time your browser talks to Amazon, it just flashes that ID. The server doesn't know your name is Susan, but it does know that user 1678 is back and wants to see their shopping cart. Okay, so the website gave you an ID. But where does it actually keep all the information that goes with that ID, like your shopping cart? Well, that brings us to our second big idea, the container where all this data lives. And more technically, that's called the database.
The best way to picture a database is just as a massive, super organized digital filing cabinet. It's built to store and grab huge amounts of information very, very quickly. It's pretty much the central brain for almost every website you use that gives you a personalized experience.
And inside that big filing cabinet, the organization is actually pretty simple. A table is like one of the drawers, maybe labeled User Profiles. And inside that drawer, each row is like a single index card for one person. And each column is just a specific spot on that card, like username, password, or about me.
And here's what that looks like in practice. It's just a simple table. Sam Smith is one row. Jane Smith is another. The user column holds their unique identifier, and the text column holds their profile info. A database like this can find and pull up any piece of this information in just a fraction of a second. It's incredibly fast.
All right, so not everything gets kept in that one giant central filing cabinet. Sometimes it just makes more sense to store things a little closer to home, right on your own device. And this brings us to our third core concept, the local copy. Think of local storage as kind of like a superpowered version of a cookie. It lets a website save a pretty big chunk of data right there in your browser. This is actually what lets you use some web apps even when you're completely offline. Okay, so the really big difference here is just where this stuff is stored. The database is the company's central filing cabinet, way over on their servers. Local storage is more like keeping a few important notes right there on your own desk. It's faster to get to, and it's more private. So how does it work? Well, it uses a really simple system of key/value pairs. The website might store a key called username with the value Sam Smith. And a huge advantage here is security. One website can't just peek into the local storage of another website. And since the data is right there on your device, things can load instantly without having to wait for the internet at all.
So let's bring these three ideas, the identifier, the database, and local storage, all together. Because when you see how they all work together, you start to get a much, much clearer picture of how your digital world is actually built.
So you've got an identifier, that little cookie, to know who you are. You have a database on a server to store your shopping cart, and you might have some local storage on your device to remember your settings. These three simple concepts are really the foundation for pretty much every personalized experience you have on the web.
And that really gets to the most important takeaway here. The technologies themselves, the specific names and versions, they're always going to change. But these core concepts we've talked about today, they're fundamental. If you understand the ideas, you'll be able to adapt to whatever comes next.
It's not about being a programmer or some kind of networking expert. It's really just about seeing the structure behind the screen. When you understand the pieces, the whole system becomes less of a mystery and more of a tool that you can navigate with a little more clarity and confidence.